to correct me.
No, that was well said. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor McKenzie, back to you.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering if Councillor Armstrong has his answers now, or is he still going to pull it, or?
Yeah, so just procedurally, council, if any council member wishes to oppose, that is their right.
Yeah.
An item on the consent agenda, we pull that particular item out. So the question, I guess, Councillor Armstrong, you satisfied with the responses, or would you still like to have this particular item pulled out for a vote separately?
Slide your agenda, and that's members' comments.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sullivan, gearing up. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make sure you can see I'm wearing my school mask tonight. Sainton High School, home of the Greyhounds. Not just to represent Sainton High, but also just as a reminder to everybody that schools are back in session. Teachers are in schools this week, and students will be back a week from tomorrow. And it's going to look very different. I guess my ask for families going back to school is to be patient, make sure you communicate with the schools if you have any questions. Things are going to be different. But schools are working hard for social distancing measures. Reminder that all students will need a mask in order to enter their school, and will get all sorts of more information from their schools. But also just to continue to encourage people to make sure they're wearing their community mask when they can't social distance 2 meters or greater. And kudos to some of our businesses that are making it a requirement to enter. I read it on Facebook, so it must be true. But I also saw the signs at the store that the Atlantic Superstores, as of tomorrow, are going to require face masks, community masks, when you go into the building. So kudos to them. And just a reminder, community masks are less about keeping yourself safe, and really it's about keeping your droplets from getting out into the public for others. So if everybody wears masks, it greatly reduces the chance not only of COVID, but we're going to be coming into flu and cold season, and it's just a good healthy habit. And make sure you wash your hands. Thanks, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Well, Your Worship, I just had this little message. We're not going to be here on September 14th. Our meeting's going to be canceled because of the provincial election. So I just encourage everyone to go out and vote. And if possible, go ahead of time. You can vote anytime this week at your returning office, or you can go to the advanced polls. But we should all exercise our right to vote, especially women, because we haven't had that right for too many years. It's less than 100 years, I think, since we've been allowed to vote. So just make sure you get out there and find out who the candidates are and vote for whoever you think will do the best job.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, the community lost a very fine gentleman this past week on August 27th. Gerald Vickers passed away at Bobby's Hospice. Gerald was married for 60 years to the love of his life, Helen. His Hanlon in-laws became a second large and loving group of siblings for him. Gerald had a strong social conscience and volunteered actively with the Knights of Columbus, the North End Minor Baseball, and St. Patrick's Society, and Holy Trinity Church, just to name a few. He was a devoted husband, father, and friend, and was rewarded for that devotion by loyalty and love from many. Gerald's death will leave an empty seat at the Milledgeville Tim Hortons, but nothing can erase fond memories and friendship and laughter, and we're all going to miss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Thank you, Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Worship. I guess I'll reiterate the get out and vote line. I think it was 1919 when women got the vote. But right now, there's a very interesting dynamic of candidates out there in all of the wards. And it's worth doing a little bit of homework to see, where people sit on all sorts of issues. So I would encourage people to do that and try to make a bit of an informed decision. It is only 2 weeks out, so the time is short, but like I say, it's interesting times, and I'm not sure if the Chinese saying that "May you live in interesting times" is a curse or not. But anyways, it is very interesting right now in St. John. Thank you.
Absolutely. We're certainly, I think 2020 meets that Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times. Councillor Norton.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Well said, Councillor Reardon. Just on the same, sort of along the same vein as Councillor Sullivan has done so well with the Cherrybrook Zoo and now community masks, Canada Games Aquatic Center in the spirit of that, promoting one thing and trying to do it well. You're interested in a premier fitness facility, whether it's a pool, a gym, or just getting active, check out your Canada Games Aquatic Center. I know that Good Life Fitness has not opened uptown, so Canada Games Aquatic Center is nearby, and you can walk there and test drive it for a week for free. So drop in, visit them, and see what our city-owned facility has to offer you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, just quick two things. First of all, I ran tonight to get my tie on for council, and just how honored this may look like a regular tie, but just how honored I am to put this tie on and represent, as we all do, Canada's first incorporated city. So I thought I would tell you very quickly about it. It is our tartan. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's absolutely beautiful. The red is reflective of our nation's flag as Canada's first incorporated city. The blue symbolizes the Atlantic waters and the rivers that surround the city. Brown is respectfully dedicated to the First Nations people. Green is a tribute to our natural environment as well as our St. John Irish heritage. And this was a partnership. I know our former cultural affairs officer, Bernie, was involved in the project, and I know there was a sponsor. I'll have to get the sponsor, but it's not just a tie. It represents such an honor to serve this great community of ours. And then on the election theme, just wanted to say good luck to all the candidates. Thanks for the courage to step up. Each one of us know what that's like. Some will be victorious, some will not. And that will not end your ability to make a difference in your community. Stay engaged. Thank you for putting your name on the ballot. And as others have said, please get out and vote. Okay, thank you. Next item, please, Common Clerk.
Your Worship, I just wanted to confirm for the record that Councillor Strobridge has now joined the meeting as well. And
Councillor Strobridge's kitty joined us there as well. So it's nice to see them both. Perfect. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is item 10.1 on your agenda, and it's a proposed municipal plan amendment for 2304 to 2310 Ocean Westway, and Commissioner Hamilton will give a brief overview.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Commissioner.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. This item before you this evening relates to a proposed municipal plan amendment intended to facilitate commercial development at 2304, 2310 Ocean Westway. The 30-day public comment period has now concluded, and no public correspondence has been received. The recommendation before you is to refer the application to the city's Planning Advisory Committee and proceed to set the public hearing date.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover of the recommendation? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Reardon. Thank you. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Thank you. Not seeing or hearing anyone. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Next item, please.
Your Worship, item 12.1 on your agenda is a sustainability update, and the city manager will speak to council on this issue.
City manager.
Your Worship, members of council, good evening. I just need to share my screen before we begin. Members of council, over the last year, we have had a standing agenda item that speaks about sustainability. For the vast majority of those presentations, I have been focused as your city manager, speaking about the process, and more accurately, where we are within that process and what lies ahead in terms of the next steps. Tonight, I'm going to focus much more on the outcomes and what we have managed to achieve and where we lie moving forward. I think it's fair to characterize that 2019 and 2020 have been years of monumental change for the city. Indeed, the Chinese proverb of "we live in interesting times" certainly holds true. We have heard all sorts of different sayings from different people as to where we are right now within our sustainability path. We've heard expressions such as, "we've turned a corner," "we're seeing the fruits of our labor," "we are seeing that our discipline is paying off." I use a different one, but with the same sentiment. We are on our way. And in fact, I am very encouraged as the city manager to see the progress that has been made by this council, by the staff, and by the entire workforce, working closely with the community in order to achieve the long-term sustainability that is essential to the future growth of this city. Just waiting for the screen to advance. Well, before we start discussing 2021 and beyond, I think it's important to reflect as to where we are in 2020. I am quite happy to report to council that we remain on track for a balanced budget for 2020, despite the very real challenges that the pandemic has placed onto this city. We are going to achieve this balanced budget because of some very quick and deliberate action that was undertaken from the city, and that action was not without sacrifice. We did reduce, in fact, almost eliminate our entire casual workforce. We stopped hiring members for our seasonal workforce, and we did cut back on services, some of which we have only begun to restore at this point in time. But at the end of the day, we did manage to cut approximately $4.5 million of costs out of our current operating budget, which means that with the lost revenue, we will be in a position to still achieve a balanced budget for this year. Turning our sights to 2021 and beyond, one of the key challenges that was placed in front of this council with the support of the staff was to eliminate the structural deficit. That required not only the balancing of the budgets for 2021 and 2022, but to ensure that we had the financial policies and plans in place whereby we did not incur a deficit in the out years before that. We are now in a position where we are no longer reliant on interim government funding in order to balance our budgets. And in fact, the budget that will be before you this evening for final vote is reflective of that. Should you approve the budget which follows this presentation, the tax rate will also remain steady for a 12th year in a row. We are building our reserves, we are borrowing less, and we are lowering many of our other costs. How we got there is shown on this slide. I do not propose to go through it in any detail. However, these undertakings were fundamental to our long-term sustainability. Shown in yellow on this slide is perhaps the most fundamental initiative that will assure that the structural deficit does not return, and that is the application of a wage escalation policy moving forward. I wanted to provide a couple quick graphs to drive home some points. First of all, this graph shows how our general operating fund budget has increased since 2013. On average, it has increased somewhere around $2.7 million a year if you were to rationalize that line. Had we not done anything, had we continued with status quo budgets, next year's budget would have had to have been in the neighborhood of $169 million. Instead, we have presented to this council for their approval this evening a budget that will be at $158 million. And you see the dramatic change in course on this slide. Financial sustainability is not just about the operating budget for any given year. It's also a question of debt and what you have in terms of reserves. On this next graph, which is taking some time to load, forgive me, council, for just a moment. The slide presentation is frozen. I'll have to exit it and restart it. On this slide, the first thing I would wish to highlight in terms of our additional financial responsibilities is addressing our infrastructure deficit. An infrastructure deficit is that amount of infrastructure that is owned that is at or beyond its usable life. In other words, it should be replaced. Back in the 2016 period of time, our infrastructure deficit, that is to say, the amount of infrastructure we own that was at or beyond its usable life, was well over $200,000. Because of the various approaches that we have taken, including our capital asset management plan and prioritizing our funding, that infrastructure deficit is now below $150 million. Our long-term debt, as shown on this slide, has also been reduced year over year and will continue in accordance with our long-term financial plan to be reduced over the next term. Again, a significant accomplishment in terms of long-term health. We are also trying to borrow less. And the way you do that is you fund more of your capital projects from your operating budget. In 2015 and 2016, we did not fund any capital through our operating budget. We borrowed for anything that we built. You now see that in the budget that's before you this evening, we will be using $3 million from our operating budget to help fund capital. Again, a significant shift in mindset. Also, back in 2015, there were no reserves. We were running, if you will, hand to mouth. We were running paycheck to paycheck. Now, over the past few years, we have built up operating reserves, and you now see that in 2020, we have over $5 million for the unforeseen, the rainy day fund, if you will. We have also built up a capital reserve to deal with major infrastructure failures that would not be part of our capital plan. And you see that again in 2015, 2016, we had no reserves for capital, and we now have some $2.6 million. In addition to our financial policies and the discipline to apply them, we also should be quite proud of what we've done in terms of climate adaptation and mitigation, and the two key plans that we have put in place in this regard, and the fact that we have secured significant external funding to help implement those plans. As a corporation, the city remains committed to being net zero for greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2040. Setting ourselves up for the success in the future means continue to further reduce our debt, to lower the property tax rate, which is something we have not yet achieved, although we have kept it steady for 12 years. But it is certainly something within the long-term financial plan that we believe will begin in the not too distant future. And of course, we must continue to invest in our priorities. We have gotten much better at measuring our financial performance and reporting on it. And I think it is fair to say that our suite of financial policies is best in class in terms of municipal management within this country. It's not just about finances and controlling our costs and our expenditures. It's also about growth. In fact, the city staff have heard me say this time and time again. It's all about growth. We need to increase our revenue streams within the city in order to truly have the long-term sustainability that everyone would desire. Therefore, I would like to spend just a moment talking about some of our recent growth accomplishments. The first one is the Regional Economic Development Framework that is now on track to be put in place. This is an outstanding example of regional cooperation for the better good of everyone within the region. It could come, quite frankly, at no better time, in that recovery post-pandemic will be essential to all of our futures. This new regional model is not just a regional model, it is also best in class in that it combines all considerations associated with growth under one organization. And this is something that is significantly different than the model we currently have today. The expression one vision, one board, one budget, one strategy certainly holds true for this new organization. It is a regional effort. We will achieve equitable cost sharing within the region within approximately 5 years, and we will have a model in place that has equitable governance and oversight. I would also like to highlight another significant accomplishment in terms of our growth agenda, and that is our economic and community recovery plan as a result of the pandemic. Although the various initiatives shown on these slides or on this slide may be modest, they have made a difference, and certainly we have received more positive impact or more positive comment than negative. One interesting sidebar note to talk about how engaged and how wonderful our community is. When we announced some time ago that we would not be able to service all of the flower beds within the Uptown core, and we actually initiated an Adopt the Flower Bed program, the community came through in a significant way. And so far, I'm very happy to report that 18 flower beds have been adopted, and some of the flower arrangements are nothing short of spectacular. And it speaks to the contributions of our community. I would also like to recognize our one-stop development shop. When the pandemic first struck in March, like everything else within the city, it closed. However, it remained closed for only a few weeks. And during those few weeks, the staff worked quickly to develop a new model for the one-stop development shop, which was entirely in the virtual domain. The one-stop development shop therefore returned to, if you will, business as usual, but not necessarily normal, in a very short period of time in order to help contribute to development within our community. Of note, development within our community has actually flourished in the past little while. I show on this slide the building permits for the month of July of this year. They are 3 times higher than the building permits for the same month last year. Not 30% higher, 3 times higher, 300% higher than last year's July. Now, some might argue that some of that is pent-up demand, and I would not disagree. So therefore, if we take a look at our season to date, we have had approximately $75 million, or just over $75 million in building permits in this season to date. It is the second highest value in the last 10 years. And the only year that was higher was back in 2017 when the Irving Oil head office was built. So generally speaking, I think it is fair to characterize that we are doing extremely well on development projects in this coming year. A lot of credit goes to the developers. A lot of credit goes to everybody else who has been working these issues. But certainly I would like to recognize our own team for helping to push through all of this development work. It did come at a slight cost, and that is to say that we did not turn around our permits as quickly as we would have liked in the June and early July timeframe. But with some restoration of some staff positions, I am also happy to say that all of our permit turnaround times, our targets, are now being achieved in every regard. So, to conclude, I do believe St. John is on the rise. We are on our way, and we are committed to do more because more needs to be done. Prong 2 of our long-term sustainability plan, which was addressing the entirety of the deficit, should be resolved in the next agenda item. Within Prong 1 and Prong 3, we continue to work to assure the long-term sustainability, to drive down the tax rate, and to put St. John in the best possible financial situation, which will in turn encourage growth within the city and within the region. We continue to work on a fundamental review of all the agencies, boards, and commissions. We are almost complete our entire organizational restructure, which will see some 80 positions plus removed from the city organization. We continue to look at and put together the implementation plan for the Ernst & Young audit, and we are developing the 10-year strategic plan that has already been briefed to this council. In terms of the Prong 3 of the sustainability plan, which were the longer-term transformational reforms, we remain focused on everything that you see on this list. And in fact, our recent correspondence with all political parties, since we are now in an election campaign, which will be highlighted later on this evening, speaks to all of these issues. In short, members of council, St. John has turned the corner, has seen the fruits of their labor, has seen how discipline has paid off, and we certainly are on our way. Your worship, all I'm looking for this evening is for receive and file, subject to any questions or comments that the council may have.
Perfect. Thank you, City Manager. If you'd stop sharing, I'm sure we're going to have a couple of comments. Thank you, Councillor Merrithew. I see you, but maybe we'll just wait for a second until the screen comes back. There you go, Councillor Merrithew.
There you go. Get me off of mute. Thank you, Your Worship. City Manager, thank you very kindly. Just a very uplifting presentation, and I'll go through some budget items here. Your presentation is going to do it better than I'm going to do it in a few minutes. But I've got to say that I'm very thankful and proud of our staff for what they've done. I know we present this tonight, but this took, and I'll say this again in the next item, this took really the whole term of this council to achieve. So wonderful presentation, sir. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Questions, comments, anyone else? Okay, okay, not seeing any. Thanks, City Manager. I do just want to make a couple of comments. First of all, I think it's an exceptional presentation and summary, and as Councillor Merrithew just said, really speaks to the commitment of this organization and the focus. You know, I wrote down you get what you focus on, and from day one, this council has focused on growth, on strengthening our finances, on reforms, which we're going to talk about tonight, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that labor. It's not been easy, but I think it is an incredibly positive narrative. I also think it dispels the false narrative that is sometimes spoken about this city. It is my view that likely not another municipality in New Brunswick or maybe even in Atlantic Canada that has undergone the level of transformational change that this organization has. And, you know, to recognize you, City Manager, it starts with leadership. You came a year and a bit, I guess, in January, and it's been a bit of a wild ride, but we're seeing some sunshine here, and as you say, we're turning the corner. So very, very positive presentation. I'll certainly be sharing it. I would ask all of my colleagues on council to share, and I'd ask you to ask our comms group, even though I know it's in the kit. I held off over the weekend and really sharing it out. I wanted you to be able to do your presentation tonight, but this is very, very positive, not easy, but very, very positive, making very strong decisions, bold and strong leadership decisions so that ultimately citizens can thrive. And when we work with the other levels of government, economically, socially, and culturally, and as I said in my own interview last week, talk is cheap. I didn't mean that in an aggressive way. It just is. So when we wrap focus with action, you get outcomes. And I think you've just given us an amazing summary of what this organization has been doing. So thank you very much for that. So it is an enthusiastic, I think, receive and file. Okay, deputies moved it. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. And I know I can't plead for unanimous votes, but boy, if there's ever one, this is a good one tonight. So anyway, vote your will, Council, of course. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, thank you. That is a unanimous vote of Council. Thank you very much, City Manager. Great presentation. And thanks again to all of the staff that have really rolled their sleeves up to help us turn the ship around. So thank you very much. Common Clerk, next item.
12.2 on your agenda is the 2021 General Fund Operating Budget, and I believe Commissioner Fudge will introduce it.
Okay, is it? Or I had in my notes that perhaps I'm going to go to Councillor Merrithew first, and I'll take his lead on where he goes from there. Councillor Merrithew is our chairperson of our Finance Committee. Probably does not want to be the Commissioner of Finance, so we'll turn it over to you for some introductory remarks, please, Councillor Merrithew.
Thank you, Your Worship. My remarks will be, again, high level. There will not be a presentation tonight by the Commissioner. He's presented to Finance, he's presented to Council. He's certainly here for any questions, comments, concerns regards this. So I'll make a few comments and then we can set it to the floor, please, sir.
Okay.
So again, extremely positive event for the City of St. John. And I said it earlier, this whole process probably started 4.5 years ago when this particular City Council was elected and brought this into their agenda. We have had some very tough recommendations. We've made some tough decisions. But I think what we've done is completely right for the citizens of St. John. I think everyone should know out there that we are on the only level of government that must balance our budget on an annual basis. And it's tough to do so. And again, we've done it this year in 2020 with COVID rising, as City Manager John Cullen just reiterated to us. So I can't tell you how proud I am of staff and council for making those tough decisions. I will say, and I honestly believe this, that if we adhere to the policies and future councilors adhere to the policies and the directions that this council has brought forward along with staff, okay, that it won't be too long before we do talk about lowering tax rates and providing the citizens of St. John with a little better quality of life or easier payment of that life. We'll need some help from the provincial government. We all know that through tax reform and help with some arbitration reform and regional cooperation and so on and so forth. We really have, and I know we use these terms a fair amount, we really have turned a corner. So with that, again, Commissioner Fudge is here to answer any questions, but it would be my pleasure to recommend this budget for adoption, please.
Okay, thank you. That's a mover, seconded by the deputy. Okay, thank you. And then questions, comments? Deputy Mayor first. I see you, Councillor Reardon. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I don't really have any questions. I think all my questions have been answered, but I just want to say to everyone, I think yourself and the council, City Manager, all of our staff, everyone's worked together on this budget. It's been a hard, difficult road. We had to make many difficult decisions, and we've had to cut our staff, but all of this can turn into a very positive situation for the city as long as whoever moves on into council in less than a year's time, and if everybody keeps the debt down and goes along with all the policies that we put in place, then I think the city is in a very positive situation and can move forward into the future. And hopefully, as we're all hoping, is that we can continue to work with the province and that the province will recognize tax reform for all the municipalities, not just St. John, but certainly for us and everyone else in this province. And a few of the outdated legislation moves that they have right now, hopefully that will get changed and we'll be able to move forward. But I think the worst is probably over. You know, we've had to cut our service a bit, not too much, but a little bit. And we've had to reduce our staff, but to some extent. But I think in the beginning, this was very tough. And now, you know, it looks like we're going to achieve it and we'll move forward. So I think everybody will be happy to live in St. John and have a great quality of life. And that's what's so important for everyone that lives here and all the new people we hope to attract here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to reiterate that, to thank the staff for all of their hard work. When we hired John Collin a year and a half ago, our one request was to be sustainable. That was his KPI, to get St. John on a path to sustainability. And there was a huge amount of work that had to be done. There was so much exploration of what we did, why we did it. We needed to get some outside guidance from Ernst & Young, Gardner and Pinfold. We need to confirm where we were going, and then we needed to action all of those reports and items that came back to us. And none of it was easy, and it all took a long time. But at the end of the day, you can't do anything unless you are sustainable. You can't grow, you can't reinvent yourself, you can't become anything. You need to be sustainable, and then you can move forward. So we've crossed that threshold. It's been a long journey. It's been an arduous journey for us, but we've done it. And so now we really are on our way. So again, thanks to the staff for their commitment and to council for actioning the items that staff came forward to recommend. And like I said, we're on our way, and it's the future. It's another exciting, interesting time to be here in St. John. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Just a couple of comments. Sorry, somebody is unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, late in the draw there. Thank you, Worship. I just want to say congratulations to our Finance Commissioner. I said it before, I'm not on the Finance Committee, but the Finance Committee should be very proud. The leadership of our Finance Commissioner, we implemented those 9 policies, and I'll say it to the time I'm out of office, 9 policies that should have been done 100 years ago, we got done in our term. And council should be very proud of that. And now with the new city manager implementing the right decisions are being made, the future is finally in place and we have reserves. That is huge. That is huge. We actually have reserves in the city of St. John. So because of the Finance Commissioner and the Finance Commission and the staff and the leadership you guys have given, you've set us on a path that the public probably doesn't understand because nobody pays to that exciting finance stuff. But
they don't.
But we are on our way. And I hope the public takes the newspaper, whoever prints this stuff, realizes what has been done on this council. I'm not bragging for the whole council, just we have done a lot to set the path right for St. John. And I love that the city manager, positive messaging. We have to have positive messaging. Yes, there's always going to be problems. I don't care where you're from or where you live. And I'm guilty of sin as everybody because I'm in the bar business. But I'm going to try to project a positive image of St. John. There's 3 tower cranes up in St. John, New Brunswick right now. Hasn't been like that in 40 years, folks. 40 years through a pandemic. We're moving forward. There's tough times, but there's also resiliency. And I think we're on the right path. And I just want to thank the Finance Commissioner and the leadership and the Finance Committee for what we've done. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor. Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Okay, thank you. I think City Manager, your message is resonating here, positioned to grow. I think there's, the feedback that I've gotten on this process that we've gone through is tough, but very supportive. I think citizens are pleased to see, despite the challenge of the decisions, pleased to see an organization and a council that are making some of these difficult and tough decisions. I think it's key to be open and honest and transparent and develop the types of plans that we have around our growth, around our finances. Sticking to the plans. I'll reiterate, as you said, Councillor Armstrong, not only have we implemented the 9 policies, but the way that the commissioner is describing them, don't spend more money than you make, borrow wisely, save your money for a rainy day, take good care of your property, take control of your expenses before they take control of you, replace the roof before you buy new living room furniture. I think people can really connect to those simple descriptors of where we are. This budget, you can frame it however you'd like. I choose to frame it as a budget where we're investing $158 million. We're making major investments across a broad range of areas in our city so that we can thrive and we can grow. And I think that's what this budget, we're living within our means. Clearly, as you said, Councillor Merrithew, we can't spend more money than we have. We have to balance our books. And this budget is doing that. And I'm excited for the future. And I plead with the next council to continue to follow the path, follow the long-term financial plan, the policies. And I promise you, as a citizen, I'll be tweeting and Facebooking and coming to meetings to see how we're doing. So, okay. Well, thank you very much. So with that, I didn't see any other hands. The motion is on the floor to accept the budget as presented. There's been all the thanks to our staff for all their hard work. It isn't a process that is a week or a month. It's a process that's been probably years in the making, as you said, Councillor Merrithew. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor, last minute. Thank you.
Your worship, forgive me. It's just what you said in your last line there. The motion is not to accept the budget as presented. The motion is in the staff report and it has several parts to it.
Okay.
In the whole is approving the budget as presented, but we are seeking a motion to approve the recommendations in the staff report.
I apologize for misspeaking. Do you want to read those, City Manager, or just fine as?
I don't believe there's any requirement to read them, Your Worship. They're a matter of the public record. They're in the agenda package.
Okay.
And they're pretty self-evident.
Okay, I apologize for misspeaking. Councillor Merrick, you had that on the table for us. That was seconded. So we are approving the recommendations in the kit as it's related to the budget. I misspoke and I apologize and thank you for that clarification. Moving on the recommendations that are in the kit, that's on the floor. I'll call that question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Thank you. Not seeing or hearing anyone. That's a unanimous vote of the recommendations. Thank you very much for that, Council, tonight. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item.
Your Worship, item 12.3 on your agenda is a staff verbal report, Community Recovery Initiatives Update.
Okay, thank you. And Deputy Commissioner Phil Willett, I understand you're going to lead us off.
Yes, thank you. And through your worship and to members of council, first off, congratulations on approving the operating budget. It's a major accomplishment. Just as a reminder on the economic and community recovery, this was an adopted approach from council to accelerate our community's economic and community recovery, especially in the city's commercial districts, due to the impact of the public health pandemic. As you've received updates on, we have a variety of initiatives that are ongoing. Today is just an opportunity to give you a little update and to give you a little bit of the flavor of what's coming next. So first off, we partnered with the Community Arts Board and 10 local artists to finalize what we're calling artistic picnic tables. They are at our new pop-up park, and they represent the diverse and creative arts community we have in our city. and they are all located there, all 10 of them. Eventually 2 will migrate to in front of City Hall, but if you haven't already checked it out, please do. It does appear that many St. Johners are checking it out. 15-minute parking. So we have all these 15-minute parking spots initiated across the Central Peninsula, adopted by bylaw by council. Again, the rationale for that was in our surveying of businesses, there was just a major increase of demand of curbside service from our local businesses. So a mechanism to do that from a municipal perspective was to ensure that there were spots identified for the assurance that people could go in for 15 minutes and then leave, and that would be a quicker turnover for those particular spots. So we put up the signs. Since that time, we've actually received some feedback, kind of a continuous improvement with all these recovery initiatives. And it does seem that there is some confusion associated with the signs. So there are going to be some changes to the signs. We're moving quickly to get that done, but it does appear that some folks would think it's unclear whether there's a cost or not a cost to the parking spots. There is a cost to the parking spots. They're not free parking. You do have to pay for it. It's about 50 cents for the 15 minutes. And the reason for that is that that's the easiest way for oversight. We wouldn't want people to be parking there throughout the entire day. That would eliminate the need for the turnover that we're looking for to support those businesses in that curbside pickup. So anyway, that change is going to be done by next Monday, no later than next Monday, to the sign. So for any constituents that are contacting members of council, please inform them that those spots or businesses, the spots are required to be paid before use. In terms of open streets, this past weekend we have not had an open street, and the next weekend we do not. It's weekends off, if you may. The last 2 that we had were for Germain Street and Upper Princess. When I say Upper Princess, it's between Charlotte and Germain. And then the last one was for Princess and Prince William. The first one was about 1,000 people that attended, and I should say that's 1,000 throughout the whole day. There was no more than 30 or 40 people at any given time. It's certainly not 1,000 people at one given time, just for clarity. The one on Prince William attracted throughout the day over 3,000 people, and again, there'd be no more than 30 to 40 people on the street at any given time. So we are certainly respecting social distancing. I do have some exciting news. You could call it some West Side love, if you may. We have an operational plan approved today for a open street, the first of its kind for this iteration on Main Street West. Businesses that saw it were very keen, kind of unanimous thumbs up to let's go for this. So I am pleased to announce that on the 12th of September, we are proceeding with our first West Side open street. More information to come. I don't have all the answers for it. It was just approved a couple hours ago. From an operational plan standpoint, but we're very excited for this. As a reminder, community and economic recovery was never intended just to be in the Central Peninsula. It's for the entire community. Central Peninsula was a good place to start, but there's a variety of commercial districts across the city. The final 2 iterations after the September 12th open street will be Germain and Princess, as well as the Prince William the Prince William and the Prince William iteration, and then also we're going to combine Canterbury and Germain and Princess in one kind of super one on the final weekend of September. And I should also note that, listen, there is no cookie cutter approach on this. We are adapting after every iteration, after getting feedback from businesses, which is very important. We have to make changes to ensure that it's there, and this is for the benefit of businesses. So if we see or we hear that it's not supporting businesses, if it's detrimental to businesses, we need to hear that this is for businesses, and we can easily transition to something different if need be. And on that note, the last update that I have is a lot of these initiatives, the pop-up park, the picnic tables, the open streets, the night market, will all sort of come to an end by October when it gets a little too cold to do. But that doesn't mean we're stopping. Council approved a budget for economic and community recovery. We still have available budget to support it. So I'm here today to announce too that we will be initiating a new consultation to get additional feedback on what's next. It's a little bit different. An open street in the middle of February probably won't work. A pop-up park in January probably won't work, but we want to know what will work and what do businesses need. And it's a good time to check in with businesses to find out what they need and how we can support them and how a municipality can facilitate and accelerate that growth. So again, more information to come on that. We have committed to consulting businesses throughout this. This was never initiated by an individual or a member of council or council. This was always sought by feedback from the community. We'll continue to do that. So look out for a little bit more information on that. And if any members of council have ideas or receive ideas from the public, please let us know. We'll be digging through that in the coming weeks and come back to council with our next steps. With that, that's it for my update. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Phil, too. I'm certainly glad to see the adjustment on 15-minute parking. That was going to be my first question for you, so you're ahead of it. Yeah, I hope that communication aspect can get fixed, and I'm sure it will, as you've identified. Just really a positive note for me. Open streets seem to be going really well. I've had a few conversations with businesses and the public while they were in action last couple weeks ago, and everything seems to be going very positively. On top of that, the pop-up park seems to be going very well as well. Heard a lot of really positive excitement around the picnic tables in particular. Is a really great idea to showcase our public and showcase St. John talent too. So very positive for me, and nice to see the west side getting some love too in the new plan for Main Street. So that's wonderful. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to say it's great. Getting things back to normal is good. Getting people out and using our businesses and supporting one another, it's wonderful. And I know, Phil, that this isn't quite in your department, but it's good to get things back to normal in the city. And I just want to ask if there's any way we can get some flags up in the city. I know it's the Parks Department, but especially in Fort Howe. I mean, I don't know how many people, all the veterans in the city have asked me where the Canadian flags are. There must be some way we can do a little more work on getting, if we can. I mean, I'm not pushing anybody. I'm just saying that, it would be nice to have that activity, have some of our Canadian flags, New Brunswick flag, city flag flying around the city. People want it, and I appreciate that. So I'm just pleading if we can get that done through the Parks Department or whatever department can do it. I'd like to hear back. I've asked before. I'd just like to see if we could get that done, if we could, Your Worship.
Okay.
The people have asked, especially in Fort Howe. It's one of the places where all the tourists go. They come to St. John, and just makes it look nicer.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. Pride of place, yeah, for sure. Okay, anyone else? Did I see anyone else? Okay, thank you. Receive and file then, please.
Well, I'll move that, but could you ask the city manager, has he got any way he could answer that, if we can do these flags?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Moved and seconded by Councillor Hickey. Thank you. Flag city manager is the question.
Your Worship, we'll look at it again. There's actually a commitment for over 100 flagpoles in the city of St. John. It's not an insignificant undertaking. I will go back with the team and take a look at this again and see if there's anything that we can't do. Again,
even if it's just some of the really.
I understand that, but I'll take advantage to make the point that, again, this summer, right now, as we speak, we are working with 120 less employees than we have in any other summer. So there are limits as to how many small but important add-ons we can put into their workday. But I understand the Deputy Mayor's comment. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey, did you have a follow-up?
Just quickly, I won't belabor it. I've had a couple conversations just in regards to the flags. I know it was mentioned by the community groups that even if they could gain access to the flags themselves, they'd be willing to put them up and maintain them from that degree. So I'll leave that with staff, but that's just what I heard from the community.
Thank
I
you.
won't belabor it any further. Thanks.
Adopt a flower garden, adopt a flagpole. I can see a theme here. So perfect. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we have a receive and file on the floor. I'll call that question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Thank you, Phil, Deputy Commissioner Ouellette, because I guess to the public, you should know that for open streets and all these other great ideas that Phil and his team came up, they're also down there on the weekend. Phil often with a cute little baby strapped to his chest, moving picnic tables, putting banners up, along with, a number of other staff who have day jobs. So these efforts are not without a lot of sweat and tears to get these set up, and all of our other staff, of course, that have contributed. So thank you, and volunteers. Okay, next item, Common Clerk.
The final item under business matters is 12.4, and it's the position paper for provincial election.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Your Worship, this particular agenda item is for public information since Council is fully aware of what I'm about to say. On the 18th of August, there was a letter released, signed by the Mayor on approval of Council, inviting all of the various political parties to address Common Council at a date to be determined at their convenience on the issues that are important to our municipality. That was followed up with a second release on the 26th of August last week, again signed off by the Mayor with support of Council, which was, and forgive me, I'm going to quote, the title, the paper was called Ready for Growth, Our Potential is Clear, and it was, quote, a position paper for consideration by political parties during the New Brunswick provincial election, September 2020. Within that paper, it offers no judgment. It simply highlights those issues that are important to our community moving forward. In general terms, it highlighted the importance of comprehensive property tax reform, changes to binding arbitration so that affordability could be a consideration by arbiters, the notion of creating regions for growth by addressing regional cost sharing and regional shared services, the importance of strategic investment in infrastructure, and at least highlighting the very real challenges that we face within our community in terms of the social mandate, and asking the various parties to comment on during their election campaign what they would do to address these very real social challenges. As I mentioned, that paper was released on the 26th of August to all political parties for their consideration. I'm simply looking for receive and file this evening.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. Thank you. And some comments. Thank you. Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Do you have a comment, Councillor Sullivan? Yep. Thank you. You kick us off.
Thanks, Your Worship. And thank you, Mr. City Manager. Certainly we started this a few years ago in the last provincial election. I remember, I think it was the first time that we got ourselves organized and put all our priorities under one cover. And it gave us something as a community to talk about and a document that we could reference without referencing a whole bunch of different studies. And packaging it again, I think these past few weeks for this election has certainly allowed citizens to have much more informed and engaged conversations. I am sure that the Twittersphere and Facebook and social media land is only a microcosm of what's going on, but certainly there is a ton of conversation going on around municipal reforms and where do particular candidates stand. And it is really a citizen-led discussion that is happening. And really, we have the document that backs it all up. So thanks to the mayor and city staff for getting it together so quickly and turning it around and getting it to the public and to the candidates so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, sorry, just a couple of comments then. Again, thank you, City Manager. just so the public knows, the 8 cities of New Brunswick that if you draw a circle around of 50 kilometers represent 85% of the province's population and over 90% of the province's economy. Has released a position paper very similar to ours. All of the municipal associations in the province have agreed that municipal reform, everyone agrees that municipal reform, its time has come. Many thought leaders, I don't want to single them out but many thought leaders, academics, economists, and others in the province have said it's time for municipal reform. Local media have weighed in that it's time for municipal reform. So I guess the point is it's time for municipal reform. And again, another compliment to you, city manager and the staff, our staff, certainly locally, a lot of the conversations that Councillor Sullivan spoke to, it's actually our data and one-pagers and our Ready for Growth document and our workforce reports, and it's actually informing. And I'm quite thrilled to see a lot more fact-based conversations happening about what a brighter future looks like, and having this dialogue with our candidates. And again, we thank them all for putting their name on the ballot, but we need your support. We need candidates, and we need the next MLAs, and we need the next government to act on municipal reform. So. Okay, thank you very much. So I've received and file. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And anyone contrary-minded? Thank you. Not seeing any. Motion's carried. Next item.
Your Worship, next item is 14.1. This is on your agenda under consent agenda, and it was the St. John Energy debenture application, item 5.7.
Okay, so do I have a mover of the recommendation?
Recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you. And questions, comments? We've discussed the item earlier. Okay, thank you. Not seeing any or hearing anyone. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. The Councillor Armstrong votes with a contrary vote. The motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. Next item, please.
Next item is 15.1, and it's under general correspondence. Residents of Glenwood Subdivision, Westside Estates request for exemption of specific section under zoning bylaw, and the recommendation is to refer this to the city manager.
So that is a referral, Councillor Norton. Did you want to make that motion? Okay, sorry, I can't hear you, Councillor. I just want to.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we can just refer that to the city manager to circle back regarding some feedback as it relates to the appropriate zoning, licensing, and the proper permits for those facilities within neighborhoods, what's been done, so that we can communicate to the public. I think a lot of the frustration here is about what's going on, how it's done, and whether or not proper permits and licensing has already been done, because I understand that there's some provincial licensing requirements that have to come for those residential units to be placed in neighborhoods. If we understand the process, I think that we can curb some of the frustration.
Okay, thank you. A bit of latitude there, but thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
So the referral motion is made by Councillor Norton, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. And on the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Motions carried. Thank you. Next item is a changed recommendation. Common Clerk?
That's correct, Your Worship. So it's 15.2 on your agenda. It's a letter from Kit Watson regarding restoration of building at 100 Victoria Street. The recommendation
No received file.
No further action.
No, so the recommendation is no further action. Thank you. Moved by the
receive and file as
or receive and file. Thank you. Moved by the deputy, second by Councillor Sullivan. Councillor City Manager, did you want to speak to that?
Your Worship, just a point of clarity. It is not that the staff recommendation has changed. Our recommendation all along is that no further action be taken on this letter. It was a clerical error that in the agenda, it said refer to city manager. Again, the staff recommendation has been consistent on this property, and it is to take no further action on this letter, but rather to proceed with demolition.
Okay, thank you. I keep putting my foot in my mouth tonight, City Manager. Sorry for that. But okay, thank you. On the recommendation then, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Motions carried. Next item.
Next item is 15.3. It's active transportation letters of support with a recommendation to receive for information.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Reardon, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. Thanks again for all the letters. And on the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Not seeing any. Motion's carried. Next item.
16.1, Your Worship, is a recommendation from staff to cancel the September 14th council meeting in light of the provincial election.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by the deputy. And we want to speak to that. Yeah, Councillor Sullivan, do you have a comment?
Just a question. If I understand, not only will we not have the next meeting because of the election, if I remember some correspondence correctly, is this our last online meeting?
City Manager?
Councillor Sullivan, thank you very much for putting us on the spot. Yes. Our intent is to be back into council chambers, the new renovated council chambers at the end of September. There is still a bit of challenge with the construction process, but we are trying to respect the overall intent, which is public hearings should be with public being present. We believe we will have everything in place to have it within the new council chambers at the end of the month, respecting all the health guidelines and health requirements to do so. Again, there is some risk with the construction schedule, but we remain optimistic in that regard.
My apologies if I let something out. It was rattling around in my head. So hopefully,
yes. I just feel that awkward because we cannot commit for sure, but we are trying to do so.
So soon, if not then soon thereafter.
That is correct.
Just another positive, exciting bit of news. And so as for the motion that's in front of us to take the night off, it's a very, very important night in the province, and it's an important night for the city of St. John. So I'm all for it. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And we certainly know city manager folks are working diligently to get us there as quick as we can. I think everyone misses being in the same room. I'm looking forward to it myself. Okay, on this recommendation to cancel that meeting, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Not seeing any. Motion's carried. And I believe our last item, Common Clerk.
That's correct, Your Worship. Final item is a recommendation from Committee of the Whole, item 17.1, and it's a motion to recommend the denial of a request from Reversing Falls Restaurant for short-term reduction in rent.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, you're moving the recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Sullivan seconded. Thank you. Got comments, questions? Thank you. Councillor Reardon?
I just want to say I'm having a struggle with this one because of the investment. It's not a regular lease for us. So I'm just putting that out there. I am still struggling with it. I don't know where I'm going yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Well, I guess I should say something for the public. They're not going to know what we're talking about, but I would just make the comment that it's important that we always treat all of our taxpayers in the same light, or be very fair with them. So we have a lot of tenants besides Reversing Falls. We have to use them all the same.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, can I just ask you we brought this item out. I know we do follow up to share the recommendation out to the media and others afterward. Can you just provide a bit of context for us, please? Just so that we just don't have two comments. Let's give a little bit of context and so the public and the media know what we're chatting about.
Certainly, Your Worship. The owner of the Reversing Falls restaurant is currently within a 60-year lease with the City of St. John with fixed lease payments, as one would expect. He has asked for lease payment relief, not in its entirety, but a 25% relief in lease payments for a 5-month period. We have been consistent in approach since the beginning of the pandemic that we are not offering lease relief, but rather we can work with various lessees to arrange deferred payment and alternate arrangements. And hence our recommendation to council this evening was that we continue with that practice of not authorizing a reduction in lease payments, but rather working towards perhaps finding some sort of alternate payment plan for the owner of this restaurant.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful. Okay, the recommendation's on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, thank you. The motion is carried. And thank you again. I think that's our last item to the public. Fairly short meeting tonight, which is not the norm. Big items on the agenda. Some great news about the progress we've made. Earliest adoption, as far as we know, of a municipal budget in our history. Obviously, a tremendous amount of work there. You see all of the folks who spent their evening with us that perhaps weren't called on tonight, but they're still here. Highly dedicated teams and staff serving the community, and very, very proud to be a part of this team. And some difficult decisions have been made, but we're on a path to thriving here in the future. Very, very proud of that. And I want to thank everyone. Just need a motion to adjourn, please. Thank you, Councillor Reardon, and seconded by Councillor Hickey. Thank you. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night. Great night.